Hey everybody, welcome to Board Games of the Family. Today we're taking a look at Rampage. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is I put up a little poll on The Geek to see what game people wanted me to film next, and Rampage won. And at that point I suddenly realised I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to be able to film this because I can only use one hand because I'm holding the camera. But I'll go ahead and I'll give it my best shot. What I'm going to do this rules overview, and then I'm going to wait a few days until I'm home with my son, and hopefully between the two of us we can manage to film a decent enough gameplay run through for you to get the idea. So I'm also going to do something quite unusual in that I haven't actually set up the game yet, just because I wanted to show you how this game works and how the setup works. So the board comes in two halves. These fold, and in the middle there's a big hole. Now there's a locking tile, which is here. Forgot where I put it. So this locking tile on the back is glued into a piece, and this goes into the middle. And even this is hard to do one-handed. There we go. And that locks the board into place. Now, I'll just point out here, and if you can see this, these bits here are raised. All of these are the what they call the ruin tiles. These are the bases. These are all glued essentially onto the board. So these do not move. So what you're going to do to set up, and if we look at one of these, I don't know if you're going to be able to pick it up on the camera here. You can just make out one of the outlines. There's the outline of a meeple. Now here there are 4 on each corner. On this big one here, you won't be able to see, but there are 8 on that one. So all these other buildings are going to have 4 on each one. So what we do, we go to our big bag of meeples. Big bag of meeples. And we're going to draw 4 at random. The different colours do different stuff, which we'll come to in a minute. And what we do is we're going to put 4 on each of these spaces. And then what we're going to do is grab some of these building tiles. Now these building tiles are all, there's different artwork. It's essentially meant to be humorous and cutesy, a little bat signal on one of them. It doesn't really matter which way they go. They go that side. And you'll put another 4 on. Again, picking the colours at random. 3 and 4. And you'll keep repeating this process until you get to the top piece. Oops. And try not to demolish the building like I've just managed to do. But that's going to be quite dull watching me set all that up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut away now, and I'm going to come back. But I just wanted to show you how the game sets up. It doesn't actually take as long as it probably looks like it does. And I just wanted to remind you all that there is this glued in piece here at the bottom, which will come into play later. So I'll cut away, and we'll come back when it's all set up. Okay, so we're back, and as you can see, I've now set up the board. I've set it up as if I was going to play a 2-player game. We've got the red monster over here, and the green monster all the way over here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the big buildings, and the big stadium in the middle. And you might also see there are 4 vehicles around. These are all colour-coded as well, but the colours just mark on which spot they go. So the green tank army thing goes on the green spot, and the yellow ice cream truck goes on the yellow ice cream truck. That's where they start. So we'll talk about the different colour meeples first of all. You might see there are 6 different colours. Conveniently, they all happen to be on top of the building, so I can pick them up easily. Green dudes. This is going to focus. Nope, it's focusing my lovely hand instead. These are the soldiers. I should point out, I don't think if you get the game today, I don't think the stickers come with it. These were, I think, an added bonus from the first run of the game. I might be wrong about that. They might still come with it. But if so, enjoy sticking on 180 stickers. So the green are the army dudes. The reds are meant to be the superheroes. This really isn't going to focus, is it? What's quite cool, again, you probably won't be able to see because of the focusing, but there is a difference between the front and the back. And that goes for all of them. So blue are reporters or media. The black guys are meant to be politicians. You can see they look very politician-y. At least they would if you can actually look. The yellow ones are called blondies, or the blondes. I didn't make up these names. There she is. Actually, the yellows are the only ones with actually wearing a skirt. They're flat bottom rather than the legs. And finally, the grey are just the old men. And you can see he's got a bald and very, very big beard. So clearly an old man. So they're the different types. Now, what are you trying to do in the game? So this game is based on the old arcade game that I certainly played when I was growing up called Rampage. And if you remember that, it was a kind of sideways scroller featuring kind of King Kong and Godzilla. And you had to kind of climb up the side of the buildings and knock the buildings down, eat the people, while getting shot at by helicopters. This is very similar, minus the helicopters. So what you're trying to do here, you're trying to destroy buildings by knocking them over. When you knock them over, you'll be able to have a chance to eat the meeples, and you'll have a chance to gobble up the floors. They all get you points at the end of the game. One of the main things you're trying to do is get full sets of the 6 meeples. The game ends when the last floor is eaten, and I'll explain how the floors get eaten. So that's the game, that's what you're trying to do. Now, how do you do it? On your turn, you can take 2 actions. And those 2 actions can be 2 of the 4 possible choices. The first choice you've got is moving. So to move, you remove your meeple's body. And what you're going to do, you're going to flick your meeple feet. So just to show you, these are the feet of the monster. And this is the monster's body. He's got a sort of flat head, which helps. We'll show you why. So normally he stands like that. To do the move action, remove the body. What you're going to do is just going to flick the feet. Once you've moved, he goes back on top. That's the move action. The next action you can do is the throwing of the truck. Now you can only do this if you happen to be in the same zone, the same neighbourhood as a truck. A neighbourhood is sorry about the glare from the lights. A neighbourhood is one of these coloured boxes. So that's one neighbourhood here. This is one neighbourhood all the way back there. That's another neighbourhood. That's a neighbourhood, etc. So if my monster was in here, I'm in the same neighbourhood as a green truck. I can pick it up and I can place it on my head. And this is going to be one of the hard things to do with one hand. So he'd normally go on there. And then normally you'd be able to hold the body, which I can't do because I'm holding the camera, and just flick him off the top. Like that. Obviously, you could try to do it better than that. You can do this to try and either knock down other monsters or try and knock down the buildings. So that would be a throwing action. And actually, the truck then stays wherever it lands, unless it goes off the board. So for example, if I happened to flick that and it landed there, it would then be in that, so I could not throw it again from the green area. So that's movement, that's throwing. The next action, I'm really not going to be able to film at all. At least I don't think I can, if I'm not going to try it. It's a blowing action, or the breath attack. And what you do there, you lay down, or you don't lay down at all. You lay your chin on top of the meeple's head, and you blow. So that's what it would look like. At this point, you're not allowed, from what I remember about the rules, you're not allowed to actually hold the meeple while you do it. So you have to bend over, place your chin on the monster's head, and then blow as hard as you can. And again, that's good for blowing meeples off buildings, or potentially for blowing meeples over, blowing buildings over. The fourth action, is one I've been leaving to last deliberately, because it's going to destroy the board, is going to be the demolish building attack. And what we do here, you can only do this if your feet are on the sidewalk. So each building has one of these sidewalks around it. If I get an aerial view, you can see it goes all the way around, all 4 sides. Every single building has a sidewalk. So if I come back to this one here, if my feet are on the sidewalk, then I can do the drop attack. And what I do here is I pick up my monster, I hold him. The arm has to be parallel to the floor, so you can't drop him from like way up there. It has to be parallel. Your shoulder has to be straight, as it probably is there. And you have to try and drop him. So you can't drop him from down here. The reason for that is if you miss the building completely when you drop him, then you take damage. So what we're going to try and do here, here's my monster. And that was a bit spectacular, and I've probably lost a load of meeples now under the bed. Brilliant. I've tidied them up by later. So at this point, I've just wiped out everything. We've got some runaways, we've got some buildings that I can eat, some floors that I can eat, and that literally wiped out that building. That's a lot more vigorous than it normally is. So there are 4 actions you can do. You can move, you can destroy the building, you can throw a bus, and you can do a breath attack. And you can do 2 of them, and you can repeat. So you could do 2 moves if you wanted. You could do, if I move this quickly, then my feet are still under the sidewalk, so I could do another, still touching the sidewalk. I can do another drop attack if I wanted to, if that was my second move, if that was my first move. So you can do, you got 2 actions, and you can do any combination of 2 of those movement types. Now, I said about taking damage, and I've mentioned there are different ways of doing that. Firstly, if you get knocked over by another monster, you take damage. If when you try and do the building drop that I just did, and you miss the building completely, you take damage. If at any point your feet, not your monster, but your feet fall off the table, or fall off the board, you take damage. So what does taking damage mean? Well, if you come over here, each player is going to have one of these very, very attractive things. These are, just show you behind, these are essentially shields, player shields. But also, you might notice, you've got these little teeth tokens. Whenever you take damage, you actually lose these tokens. So each time you take damage, you lose one of these. And if another player damages you, then they actually keep one to score a point with later. So why is that a problem? Why is taking damage a problem? Well, if we take this situation and we come back here to the board I've just absolutely wrecked. And if I move this out of the way a sec. So, if that was my turn, I can move my monster back up here. I can then look, and any meeples that are in my neighbourhood, I can eat. Up to a maximum of how many teeth I have. Now, you can always have a minimum of 2 teeth, because there are 2 teeth printed onto the cards there. And you start the game essentially with 6 teeth. So at this point, I could eat 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't eat the black meeple, because he's, I don't know if you can see, but he's pretty much exactly on the sidewalk. He looks like he's hanging over, that's just shadow. So there are 4 meeples in my neighbourhood that I can eat. The yellow, the 2 blue, and the grey. Now, that's fine, so I can eat all of them. Now, if I'd lost some teeth, let's say I'd lost them during the game, so I've only got 3. So now I could only eat 3 of the possible 4. So let's say I chose to eat him, him, and him. So I take them off the board. I'd put them behind my shield. Now, obviously, this would be turned around the other way. But I can't eat the blue dude. And of course, I'd make the choice on which colours I want based on which colours I need to make a set. So, that's the main points of the game. I'm going to pause the video now. I'm going to tidy up my my meeple catastrophe. And then I'll explain about the runaway board and I'll explain about the special cards. Okay, so I'm back. I think I've recovered all the meeples. So we'll talk about now about the consequence of the runaway meeples that we've just had and how the game develops from here. So the first thing first is before we actually gobbled down any meeples, we were meant to have had a look at the runaway meeples issue. So this is the runaway meeples chart, and as you can see there are 2 sides, side A and side B, and they look very different. Side A is recommended for beginning games. Personally, I find side B just a bit more fun. Side A, you notice it's all grey. That's because it doesn't matter what colour the meeples that run away with. So if we were playing side A in this case, and these are the 3 meeples that happen to fall under the off the table, and he actually fell under the bed. We've just placed them on this board, which is hard to do one-handed. Okay, now whenever a line is filled, the bad stuff happens. So on this line, this actually's got the whole game is very iconography driven, which is really, really handy when playing with children. This case, we lose a tooth. And this symbol means the next player to go can take my monster and place him anywhere in any neighbourhood on the board. And remember, this happens before I had the chance to eat meeples. So actually, these 3 meeples that I took before should be back on here, and they were somewhere on the board here. Let's say they were like that. And let's assume I have my full teeth back. Okay, so at this point, I would now lose one of my teeth, even, because of that. And then the other player could choose then where to put me. So let's say he obviously wants me to move me away from the meeples, and he can put me anywhere he wants. So he might choose to put me tucked away in the corner here somewhere. So then I could eat, but obviously I can't eat now because there's nothing in my zone. However, you can actually still eat the floors. So the floor that's there and the 2 that also fell off the board, I'd actually eat. And that would go in my tummy. So that's side A. Let's have a look at side A actually before we finish that. So this one is you lose a tooth and every other player until your next turn gets an extra action. That one obviously you lose 2 teeth and then they just repeat. And if you manage to fill up the whole board, the game ends. So remember, the game normally ends when the last floor has been eaten from the board. But if you're playing side A, then there's an alternative ending condition. But let's say we're playing with side B, which frankly is more fun. So what happens here is now you can see it's all color coded even. So the blue meeple would go there, the green meeple would go there, and the black meeple would go there. You might notice there's no grey space. That's because according to the rules, and it's not my words, the grey people are useless and they just go into the box. The grey ones are the old ones. So he just goes into the box with no repercussions. So obviously it's hard to fill up this. And this time, whenever you fill it up, so let's say the blue had been filled, you take your the penalty, and then all the blues get emptied, and it can be refilled. So there's no way of there's no way of ending the game early with side B. And actually, it's quite cool. Is if you have a look here, they've all got little titles. So the yellows, which remember the blondes, mass hysteria, which means all the other monsters get an extra action. Okay, so that's the runaway meeples. That's how the eating process works. So in this case, actually, obviously, my monster would be back over here in this zone where he was. He could eat, he's got 5 teeth, so he could actually eat all of these 4. Yummy, yummy, yummy. And they go into his tummy for next turn, for the end game. So far, so simple. Okay. Now, let me move these out of the way. You might notice there are these cards here. And what we've got 3 decks of cards. We've got the character, we've got the power, we've got the super secret power. At the beginning of the game, each player gets one of each of these. So, for example, my monster might be the pacifist, the siren, and we don't know what the super secret power is. Obviously, you do know, but you keep it hidden. And if you're ever not sure what anything does, there's a really nice handy thing here, and there's a player aid as well, which lists all of the so they're all the characters, the powers, and the super secret powers, and tells you what they are. So in this case, we've got pacifist. So again, it's got the iconography there. So if you didn't know what it is, I mean, I do actually know. You get used to this, but this is if you've eaten the most green meeples at the end of the game, you get an extra 10 points. So if I had this card, I'd be looking to eat green meeples wherever I possibly can. The siren, however, I have a feeling, just looking at the picture there, that means when it's time to eat, and that's the chowing down phase of the game. That's what that the mouth there means. It means rather than eating meeples in your own neighbourhood, you can eat 1 meeple from anywhere on the board. I believe that's what that is. And in your turn, instead of chowing down normally, your monster can eat a single meeple from any neighbourhood. So again, actually those two work really well together, because the siren will make it much more likely that I can pick up the green meeples. So these are the characters are all about endgame scoring. The powers are ways that you can essentially break the rules, and that's an ongoing ability. The secret superpower, or as I usually call it, super secret power for some strange reason, this is hidden information. Obviously you know what it is, but the other players don't. And you can use it once per game. So once per game you can reveal what it does, so you can reveal what it is, and you take the action. So in this case, it's a scavenger. And I've got a feeling that is probably similar to the siren, but you can probably eat up to your number of teeth at any meeples. So let's have a look. Scavenger says, chow down in the neighbourhood of another monster as though you were there. Okay, so it's a little bit different to the siren. Again, it can work quite well with a pacifist. So again, if you end your turn, where maybe you haven't got any monsters. So if I was a green player at this point, maybe I ended my turn and so there's a load of meeples here. Maybe I could choose to use it then and activate it. And again, so that's the super secret powers. Secret superpowers are once per game only, and these tend to be hidden information. So this one, I think you can eat meeples off the runaway board. Unleash, you get an extra 2 actions. So these all tend to be quite powerful, but only once per turn. These are ongoing abilities. So the stretchy paws. This lets you, when you take a movement action, which is what that symbol there is, you can actually move it before you flick it. This one I think is sharp canines. I think you can eat 2 extra. Where is he? Sharp canines. 2 more meeples in your number of teeth, yeah. Stretchy tongue, again, you can eat meeples from another neighbourhood. Smelly paws. Looks like meeples run away from you. Oh, I think meeples in a ruin leave the building. So you can eat them. And you can just see there are loads of these cards. So lots and lots of variety. And the characters, remember, these are all endgame scoring. So we've got, and a lot of these are similar. The tourist wants to eat as many, I was wrong by the way, black isn't politicians, black is businessmen. Don't know why tourists want to eat businessmen, but apparently they do. The imitator, no idea what that does. The imitator, at the end of the game, before counting eaten meeples, choose another monster's character card and apply its effects to your monster. So you can basically steal someone else's endgame scoring. Didn't run them away. Shy, you want to eat all the reporters, journalists. Mean, you want to eat all the heroes. Romantic, it's very sweet. You want to eat all the heroes and blondes. But this time, so each combination of red and yellow gets you 3 points at the end of the game. Put that in context, a full set of 6 meeples, and again, here's the endgame scoring here. Full set of 6 meeples gets you 10 points. Extra meeples don't get you anything. 1 point for each floor. 2 points for each tooth you've taken from another monster. The points from the character card, and whoever scores the most points win. So that's the game. There, if you look at the back of the book or back of the manual, there are certain variants you can play. There's fashionable diet, where you can actually lose points for eating extra meeples. Tailor-made monster, which I use quite a lot actually. You draw 3 of each card, and then you choose one. So it's easier to build synergies and more useful things. Baby monster. I've not seen this one before. You only start with 1 character card, and then you can discard a floor from your stomach to draw a second card, etc. So, that is how you play Rampage. It's a It's a really fun game. It's a bit different to most dexterity games, things like Jenga and things like what else might you be familiar with? Things like Pitch Car maybe, or Sorry Sliders. It's just a little bit different. It's a lot more chaotic. It's nice and brightly coloured. This appeals to children. I play it with my 6-year-old quite a lot. It's a kind of game where you can. I mean, we tend to play the rules a bit lighter. You know, if something's sort of touching the edge, we normally say, yeah, it's fine. It's on the sidewalk. We don't tend to play really kind of strictly. We tend to kind of make things up a little bit. But otherwise, it's really fun. So anyway, that's how you play Rampage. Hopefully in a few days, I'll be able to upload a video of a proper playthrough with my son and I. And you can actually see how it works in real life, hopefully without meeples falling under the bed. So anyway, that's it from me. Come back in a few days and we'll be able to see a proper gameplay run through. Take care for now.